bathrooms. See that sign that says restrooms? You go down that little hall, and then you'll be facing, when you get to the next one, you're facing the restroom. So that's the easiest thing. We have a friend here named Sally, who's in one of these little rooms off this little hallway. So if anybody has any questions about the church, we can ask her if I can't answer it, but I probably can. I think, is everybody here that we're expecting from the family?
Her sister's not here yet. She's traveling away.
Okay, then you keep your cell phone on, and everybody else can turn off your cell phone. And then, as soon as some people come, then we can turn off the rest of the cell phones. This was a substitute valve. We thought we could find the Shola valve that some of you remember, and eventually it will be found. It's somewhere at the lake. So, we'll
Then
just...
it's called 8 people, no one knows where it is yet. But we're working on it.
What is it?
It's a valve. So the thing is that a lot of us, including Jean and Mira is somewhere here, David is here.
I'm here.
You're there, okay. And Joel Bussell, and maybe a few other people. We all grew up spending our summers at Pleasant Lake and Muffet. So their grandfather had a shola, and at the beginning, when he called the children to the shola, he rang this very loud bell. It was a regular bell, so he rang it like this. It was a lot louder. No, he had no roll. It was huge, yeah. It was really huge. So this is a substitute, but eventually we will find the shola bell, and we'll use it for something else. A lot of us have nicknames, so a lot of people, you might be confused. Some people will call me Kaya, some people will call me Kitty. Some people call Muffet Beth, or vice versa. People call Jean Happy. And Mickey is actually known as Michelle, now that she's grown up. Yes. Yes. Actually, we've all grown down a little bit. So we want everybody to get a chance to say what they want to say. Yeah.
Oh, great idea.
What I'd like to do is like go around and let each people say their name and say whatever they want to say.
No. In the beginning.
Everybody introduce themselves first, then they can say what's wrong.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay, so, well, we'll start with you. Okay, troublemakers.
All right, Dave, starting with you.
We're starting with
Introduce
you.
yourself.
I'm going to sit.
Introduce yourself.
Stay out of this. Okay, let me clarify something. I'm from Chicago and I know people. And anybody messes with me, my name is David Johnson and I'm Jean's first cousin.
That's it.
My name is Jenny Miller-Bell, and I am also Jean's first cousin by my mother, Jean's son.
I'm Greg Olson, I'm Virginia's husband.
And I'm Virginia Holman, and I'm part of that LLC plan, so we just knew Jean as cousin Dave.
You know me.
I'm Michelle Hart. I was known as Mindy back when I knew Beth and Jean and David and several others here. And thank you for maintaining your voices because that's how I know you.
And I'm Mira Rodwin, Mira Newton's Rodwin, and my grandparents, Rose and Howard Louis Gray, were our caretakers during the summer at Pleasant Lake for David and me and Paul in one family. They're the Gray's daughter, Viola, and And their other daughter, Charlotte, was the mom of Jean and Marvin. And I wish Marvin could be here with us today. Yeah.
Yes. My name's never written down, my cousin's husband, and that would be my total association. I'm here because I'm her husband.
You're all her chauffeur and bodyguard.
And has spent a lot of time in work as a girl. I'm Tessa Davis, and my connection is to Saffron's, who is away forever. And we live next door to the Grays. And although I stopped going there when I was 8, I have memories of them always over there. Now I do really, unfortunately, part of my question is that I am slow processing. So when you came up with it just took me about 10 minutes before I could remember it all, because I didn't remember it. But I remember a whole lot of things that went on in Shola. I remember playing with lots of different players. I definitely remember that. And it was a very, very, very special time in my life.
Well, so we're just doing an introduction to how you're going to get clarify the story.
Well, you know, Chicago, I'm from here.
One thing coming from me to Chicago, being from Detroit.
My name is Mindy Miller Milan. I'm her sister and her sister, cousins with Jerry and Rachel, and we are part of another and another leg.
I'm Maggie Holtman, and grew up with Jean's annual and sometimes more than annual with the house. Up until years.
My name is Dean Holman. I'm Maggie's husband, and I'm part of the Ellis clan, and Jean's is the parent.
I'm Rachel Fairbanks, I'm Jean's half sister from California.
I'm Max, Rachel's son, also from California. I believe Gene was my uncle.
My name is Richard, and I represent the UAW. I'm proud to be here today.
I'm Jerry Clausen, and he can tell you that he is our local retirees president. I'm also here to represent the local, and Jean was one that came almost every month. When he didn't come in January, we figured in February, we felt there was something wrong, but we didn't have we were not aware of his past at that time. We didn't find out until quite a while later. Nice condolence for the family. And if family needs any information or support, this is the guy you want to contact. Local.
And I have his number if anybody wants it at home.
I'm going to say what's this?
Okay, thank you.
I'm Judy Weissman, married to Larry, who grew up on the lake. And I've been going out to the lake since I was 15 and raised my kids there, so it's a family. Our team is seeing sheep at least twice a year. Once at the breakfast out at the lake, and once at the boat dinner. And often in between, but definitely those 2 times.
And I'm Larry Wiseman, and our families go all the way back to the beginning of Clayton Lake, 70-some-odd years ago, and known Amy's family my whole life. And we kind of grew up kindred spirits as far as our philosophy of life, and I'm on this.
I'm Terry Lewis, also from the lake. When I was growing up out there in the summer, Happy was one of the older kids, so he was somebody I looked up to. And it was a pleasure to know him later in life as an equal.
Question, hi, should we do reminiscences of Gene now, or are we just going to introduce ourselves and do the reminiscences later? I'm not quite clear.
Keep it brief for And I agree with her. It depends on whether I think you can give both now and you can give more later.
Okay.
The thing is, if you're here in the present, you must have known him, so
Right.
you must have something to say
That's
other
right.
than my name is and I'm related to this one. that
Yeah.
one."
Right, and we've all waited a long time to say it.
Yeah.
But hold on. Chicago, we have Detroit, just say who you are, then we'll go around and we'll talk about it.
Very good, Chicago.
Chicago? I'm in charge, it's my role.
Say what you want to say.
Okay.
You're Boston, so you can pick something else.
Okay.
Third choice.
Okay.
And I'm here, everyone.
Okay, well, I think I'd like to just maybe, rather than do it twice, I think I'll just say a few words about Gene. And, Gene is my brother. I'm Jerry Fireman, and Gene was my brother. And, of course, I, knew him a lot growing up. And I think the number one thing that, to me, stands out about Gene is his sense of humor. I always looked forward to seeing Gene. In fact, I remember when I was just a small child, and I remember I said, I said, "Mama, why am I always sad on Sunday?" And she said, Gene lived with us. Gene stayed with us on the weekends usually, and then he lived with his mother. We had different mothers, the same father. So Gene usually stayed with us on the weekends, and then he lived with his mother during the week. So anyway, I said, why am I sad? And she says, well, that's because Gene and Marvin, his brother, were leaving, and I realized, oh, yeah, that's right. That's why I'm sad on Sunday, because Gene's leaving. And he was, he's just a very fun, and he carried that through his whole life. I think maybe a little bit less in the last few years. Maybe, I think his illnesses were weighing on him. But, he was just a very fun, upbeat, positive person, and he touched my whole life from the very childhood till he died. Just will miss Gene very much, and especially many things, but especially his positive attitude and his sense of humor.
I'm Natalie Fireman. I'm Jerry's daughter, and Gene was my uncle. I'm Olga Fireman. I used to be related to Jerry, but I still feel I have a connection with Gene. I used to see him a lot, and I really liked him.
You're Natalie's mother?
Yes.
Always. I'm Joan Bussell. I married Joel Bussell, who grew up at the lake. I was part of the lake since 1956. And I knew Marvin and Gene and Muffet, and we used to play capture the flag together. So we go way back to when we were kids. And he was a nice man. We'll miss him. And
I'm Joel Bussell. I was at Pleasant Lake from the very beginning, and I have written something which I'll read to you after a while. I have a couple of comments though. That number one, if you're going to go to the lake after this session, you can park in my house, which is about 3 doors over from Tanya's. It's 6265 Walnut Lake Road. There's plenty of parking. So if you pull in at 6265, it's 3 houses to the Tanya's, and you're welcome to park in my house. 6265 Walnut Lake Road. You can write that down if you want. The second thing I want to talk about at this moment is the bell. That bell was fabricated by my father from a pot. a saucepan. No, it wasn't a chamber, but it was a saucepan. He took the bottom of it and he welded a pipe on it, and then put a clapper on it, and it was heavy duty back then in the 40s. That was heavy duty stuff. It wasn't this stuff that you get today. It was heavy, and it had a big gong. And we painted it several times. It's red, white, and blue. We will find it. I called 7 people this morning looking for it. But it wasn't. I thought it was in my house, and it wasn't. I called my sister. And I can go tell all the people who I called. But anyway, we will find it, and hopefully the next time we see you. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I only know 25% of the people in this room. The rest of you are strangers, but I'm glad to meet you. And let's not forget those folks that just came in.
Well, I already introduced myself as Mira, nature's brother.
Oh, and you moved.
I thought I'd better sit down.
Good.
I had it on my purse, so I found it.
I want to know about the bell. Can I ask about the bell? Was that used to call people to dinner at the lake?
It was used to call people to the meetings. We used to have meetings on Sunday morning.
At the lake.
And we would walk around and clang. And then when Mr. Gray began teaching his grandkids Yiddish, and my grandmother said, "You want to stay out here with me? You go to shul." So we went to shul, and we have a song that some of us will maybe sing yet today because Larry's here with his guitar. So it was used for just to call people to come to the meeting, because you could hear it all over the end of the lake. We had 26 acres of lake and 6 acres of water, and you could hear that bell up and down Pleasant. And next time you see me, hopefully I'll have a bell and you can ring it.
I'm Deirdre Fireman. I am Jean's daughter. I'm going to miss Jean. We're going to miss our long conversations on the phone, debating about everything under the sun. I remember going on so many trips to Circle Pines and him taking me everywhere. And I was his peanut. He called me. And the last couple of years after he got sick, he kind of withdrew with calling me, and anytime I look at him, I send him a card, or it's a holiday time and I'll try to call him. So he got somewhat introverted. I would go over there, knock on the door, he would answer the door. I would cook for him like 3 or 4 times a day. I said, I'll bring you some food 3 or 4 times a day. I'll cook. Because he was eating McDonald's and all this food. Oh, yeah. G told me no, he didn't want it. So I said, well, I'll just leave it on the porch for you. Just open the door and get off the porch. He says, oh no, I'm just going to feed it to the cats. I was like, okay, fine. So I know the last time I spoke to him, he was supposed to be taking me and Lauren to the Outback. He kept calling me, promising me he was going to take me and Lauren to the Outback. We're going to go to the Outback and have dinner. And I think that was about the last time that I talked to him. He said we were going to dinner one night. And when I got the news that he had passed, it kind of just like hit me like a bolt of lightning, because he had been in the ward for 2 months. So I went and I did all his body and everything, and so, but I'm really gonna miss him. I miss his phone calls. He called me just to check on me and see how me and the kids were doing and stuff like that. And he would come visit us, but he would let us come visit him. He would always come visit us. But, in the last couple of years, he got really introverted. I wouldn't hear from him as much as I used to hear from him. Because I used to always hear from him like at least once a month. The calls kind of got less and less. So, with his sickness. So I'm going to miss him.
I'm Marlene Maven. I'm Jean's former wife and Deirdre's mom, Lauren's grandmother. My other daughter over here, Tira, and my other granddaughter, Lauren. This is Lauren. Layla, this is Lauren. When you approach 72, the memory is one of the first things to go. That's I forgot what the others were. Consequently, I wrote down a few notes about a few things I wanted to say, and kind of review of our history a little bit and our relationship. Gene and I met at Harvard Hospital back in the early 60s. He worked in respiratory therapy, and I was a student nurse. And we would run into each other at coffee, and as many coffee conversations go, our conversations grew longer and longer. I was really mesmerized by his interest in politics, many interests in politics, social justice, and they mirrored mine. I was very active in the civil rights movement at that time. And I began to realize that he was really a champion for political justice, and we shared many thoughts and ideas. Some of our first dates were, I remember our first date was to see West Side Story, and as my granddaughter Laura knows, that's a very special story to me. I think about it every time I hear the music. Pete Seeger concerts, folk concerts at the Raven, as I'm sure some of you remember, and many others. Our marriage was truly a transcultural challenge, with him learning of my African American ethnicity and me learning of his Jewish ancestry. And we managed to merge many of those. Soon I was eating beef borscht at Mrs. Gray's house, and he was eating collard greens and cornbread at my grandmother's house. But we really truly gained an appreciation for each other's culture. After Deirdre was born, we changed our residence several times. I was always impressed with Gene's budget awareness. And we would spend our entire Saturdays going over every circular that was ever published and determining where we were going to do our shopping for that day. So we would spend the whole day going to one supermarket that had one sale, the next supermarket, so on and so on, ad infinitum. You might say that we were one of the many original coupon kings and queens. And my own upbringing also taught me that budget awareness and stretching a dollar was truly a virtue. I treasure the knowledge that I gained from Gene in many, many ways and continue to practice it over many years. I remember that my daughter, Deirdre, as a child, used to say, "But why are we going so far over there to buy vegetables when we could just get it over here at the supermarket?" And then as she grew, I would ask her, "Why are you going all the way to Eastern Market to buy vegetables when you could just get in here?" I can also remember that as a child, she would complain vehemently because of my love for thrift stores or garage sales, and now she and her daughter are experts on sailing and thrifting, as now we politically call it. I guess Gene really always had a great work ethic, and he was overjoyed when he was first hired on at Chrysler. I always admired his love of music. When we moved into our first apartment, which was a one-room studio apartment, we had no furniture. But Gene brought in box after box after box after box of his albums, his LPs, you guys know about that. So we wound up sitting on many of his album boxes.
What kind of music?
Oh, Gene's taste in music was so eclectic. He enjoyed everything from folk, I think that was his one of his primary interests, to jazz, to R&B, to just every type of music. And one of the things that we used to love to listen to was, gosh, I can't remember his name, but the flautist. And my granddaughter wound up playing the flute in high school. I wonder if she knew where she got that from. When we did move to a larger apartment.
Sorry, sorry about Herbie Man.
Herbie Man, thank you. I told you about that, remember? When we finally did move to a larger apartment after Deirdre was born, we convinced the landlord to let us put some of those freestanding, newly developed shelves that attached to the walls for books. The landlord agreed, but I don't think that he quite knew the extent of Gene's book collection, because it wasn't long before we had every wall in that apartment covered with those freestanding bookcases. Our family activities included going to the lake. In fact, I went into labor with her at the lake. We loved going to the zoos, picnics, and visits to relatives out of town. Even after we parted, we remained friends and would meet occasionally for lunch, kept in touch over the years. And as my daughter stated, over the last few years, he became increasingly difficult to contact. Gene was a kind and gentle soul, and he would truly be missed.
Thank you, very nice.
How you guys doing? I'm Justin Riley. I'm on the website.
Yeah, you didn't get a chance to meet Gene, but he's here because I asked him to come. I'm Lauren, I'm Deirdre's daughter, and this is my nana. I know, like, Gene and I, when I was younger, used to always take me to Borders. Every time he came to visit, we would go to the bookstore. I would always look forward to it because I love books so much, and as my grandma stated, he apparently loved them just as much as I did. So, I mean, it was really something that we bonded over, and I wish it could have continued on. It kind of faded away. But, I mean, I still, like, the book collection that she was talking about that we had, I have so many books, and it's kind of funny. I never knew that he collected books like that because I did the same thing. I mean, we used to talk on the phone a lot, and he wouldn't come around as much in the van, like my mom said. But the times that we did have together, they were definitely something to remember. And he was a good friend. I enjoyed our times together.
Thank you.
So again, I'm David, and I'm Gene's first cousin, and I want to say something.
Could you speak up,
You got
please?
people near you.
Speak up, please.
Who said that?
What'd you say?
Okay, is this loud enough for you?
Yeah, it's better.
That's too bad. I'm not talking louder now. Okay. Let's see. First off, I want to say this to you, that my wife died almost 4 months ago of cancer, and people changed near the end. Because I remember a little while before she died, I gave her this small letter saying what she meant to me. She was this very emotionally guttural person, and it was clear she couldn't take that in. All right, so and that told me all her energy was going to survive. So, you know, but I had an interesting thing happen last week where I was able to move past the sick person who was there to the healthy, strong person and really see and remember the healthy, strong person trying to church. But you know, I'm a mental health and addiction therapist, so you saw some of that coming out. But you know, Gene and I played together at the lake, and I mean, it was great. Bobby would, you know, if it was, so we had this, I think it was Orange Kiss thermometer out and back, and if it said 70 degrees, we headed to the lake, and she washed us with, we washed with Phil's napkins.
In a floor scrub brush.
I mean, it's a good thing I still have some skin on. I mean, that stuff's nasty. I mean, you wouldn't use that anymore. I mean, it's like, it's going to get all the dirt. You got dirt on there, it's going to get all the dirt. You know, so she would do that. We'd swim in the lake. She'd say it's okay to fish in the lake. And she'd do her little dog paddle
all the way down to the other end of the
I know, tell me about it. She'd just be like that, you know, and we just, but we come back, we'd have Kasha with a softball egg over it, and we were good to go the rest of the day. You know, we were barefoot all the time, and you know, those were just, I mean, in a sense, very privileged, carefree times that, you know, you could just be out there being kids. You know, we play in the woods, and you know, that's just great. And you know, Gene was my buddy. You know, I mean, we did everything together. Gene and Marvin and I, we did everything together. The last couple of times I saw Gene right before I left Chicago in 1974, and I was driving a CTA bus. And I remember he came to pick me up at the end of the line. And I remember I played Nina Simone singing, "This is the end of the line." I just have that memory of Gene. And then last summer was the Circle Pines, what was that, 70 or 75? 75 year, was a reunion, and Gene came up to visit, and I have regrets that I didn't spend as much time with him as I could have. You know, I mean, I was kind of, I do regret that. But that was my last visit. But we had, we had good times together, and he was my first cousin. I think back fondly on those good times we had. Can I ask you to read what my brother wrote? Yeah. And I would do that. You know the boss man. Okay. Paul Richards, who is the older brother to me and myself, has many memories of Gene. You know, Gene got somewhat of a broad deal in life. One summer at the cottage, she took some cookies or candy and put them under his pillow. Bubby girls found them, and after that, whenever anything went missing, she said, "Oh, maybe Gene took it." See, that isn't that rough. But he always seemed to have a happy, open, trusting approach to life. I remember the time he came and visited me in Northern California in my 60s. I was the oldest cousin. I knew he had come up seeking some life insight. In hindsight, I think I could have spent more critical time with him about family and life. Paul wishes everyone love, and welcome to this year in Buffalo. Yeah.
Yeah. So have we gone around to everybody?
Yes.
Except the newcomers. There's some newcomers back there that we haven't heard from.
Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Atira, and I'm Arlene, Baby's daughter, Deirdre's sister, and this is my daughter Layla. We never had a chance to meet Gene personally, but I did hear many wonderful stories from my mom and my sister about Gene, and I know that he was a great man, and he will be missed. It's nice to meet you all.
I guess I'm really proud. I need to share about Gene. Again, my name is Richard Clayton, UAW representative. And we knew something was wrong when Gene didn't come to membership meeting in January. Terrible to say. January, February, March. Just didn't know what it was yet. But Gene was a faithful member of the retirees. It just surprised me when somebody said he was a social person. He did social programs. So that would be slow. What surprised me, Gene was Democrat. What does surprise me is he was Jewish. He had Jewish heritage. I never knew that. But Gene was, I had represented Gene while I was an active. I started out, well, I got transferred to Trenton Engine in about 85, and then as the vice president of the active, I was retired to be president, chairman of the retirees. But the last 2 years, we had a lot of talks about politics. What was wrong? There was a lot of things wrong. There was a lot of things good too. So we was talking about it all the time. Long talks about politics and like Walter Reuther said, the red box and the ballot box are tied together. You don't believe it? Just look at it together. Very good. Definitely tied together. I was proud to represent him. He was always a faithful union member. It's a pleasure to be here today to meet his family, his friends. That's really all I got to say. I'm waiting at doing the best I can for you.
Really glad you could come.
If you need to get a hold of me, or there's family members, she has my interest.
Yes. I got his email and his phone number.
Right.
So, Vicki, you want to read something and then share something with your own?
Well, I think that it's probably quite appropriate that I follow my union brother there.
Thank you.
I'm a member of the Metro AFL-CIO. I'm a retired Detroit teacher. And what I want to read to you, and I can hear my voice already going. I was a speech therapist. You'd think I had better control. But I get very emotional. What I'm going to read is from Peggy Goldman Frankie, who was a friend of mine of here, and Jean's. And this is what she says, and then I want to add a little something if I can get through that part. Jean was a caring and committed person who represented the best of his Jewish working class roots. He lived his life with principle and compassion for all people, and was a soldier in the army for those who struggled daily for social and economic justice for all. He truly believed in the brotherhood of man and woman, and the need for a world of peace and justice. I ditto that. That's how I knew Jean. And as I said, I knew Mr. and Mrs. Gray the best. And that's where that comes from. They were Jewish socialists, deeply involved with working people. And that was my family also. And so I knew the children and the grandchildren based on the fact that my parents and the Grays were colleagues and friends and co-workers in the struggle. Last time I saw Jean was at the Buck dinner last March. No, the March before. Because we found out about his passing at the Buck dinner. But a year ago last March. And he and Peggy's husband were across the table from each other. Peggy's husband is retired. He's from Local 600 Ford, and he was an inspector at the end of the line. And Jean kept razzing Dwayne about that not being real working class. You know, he was just an inspector. He wasn't real, you know, and in the union movement, you get a lot of that, you know, who's more working class than the other. But I was listening into the conversation, and every time Dwayne would try to defend himself, Jean would go in and sort of turn.
Sounds like Jean.
I remember that well because I think it tells a lot about Jean and his humor, his admiration for everything working class. But his humor and his confidence that he felt comfortable doing this to a brother union member. A number of us at last count 75 get together every New Year's Day now at my husband's and my house to celebrate New Year's and coming of the new year and rededicate ourselves to the struggle. Sponsored by the People's World, a radical newspaper deeply involved in the labor movement and social change. And I had invited Jean to come to the party. And on New Year's Day, he called and left a message that he wasn't feeling very well and he didn't think that he was going to make it. And then 2 months later, we found out that he had passed away just a couple of weeks after that. So I'll think of the New Year's Day.
Joel?
Okay. I got a piece that's a little quick and basic. Music making piece. In my second and third life, I'm writing my life story. I take 2 different classes, writing 6 or 7 pieces a month. And I just read this for my class Thursday. I wrote this and I tweaked it a little bit and I sent copies out to a lot of people to see if anybody had any comments. I'll read it to you. It's on the back of that white sheet that we just read. It's basically a history of Pleasant Lake and Gene and my relationship, which was limited. One of the major factors facing the survivor, and we are all survivors, guys, is the challenges of burying your friends, relatives, and or colleagues. Although this responsibility is sad, it is also an opportunity to celebrate the life of the deceased as well. And we've heard a lot of interesting vignettes about your lives and your relationship with Gene. In 1941, my paternal grandparents, Anna, also known as Hannah, and Sam, also known as Israel Bustle, and Gene's maternal grandparents, Rose and Louis Gray, financed the purchase of the land at the east end of Pleasant Lake in West Bloomfield and formed the Lake Improvement Association, a commune, or kibbutz, if you might, 7 years before the formation of the state of Israel, 1940. That year, Gene was only 1 year old and I was just 4. At that time, we were just babies and far too young to really know each other. Our grandparents' vision was to move cottages onto that property and otherwise improve the conditions in order to build a refuge where their grandchildren could spend the summers in clean, fresh air in the country, away from the crowds of the city, and avoiding the effects of polio, the stress and strain of World War II, and the hazards and stigma of anti-Semitism. After a few summers, we and our counterparts from other immigrant Jewish families got to know each other and enjoyed the wonders of nature and the friendship of each other. As we and our siblings, cousins, and friends spent those summers together, we became an extended family. When the knowledge that Louis Gray was teaching his grandchildren the basics of Yiddish, we others were aggressively encouraged. That's a tongue-in-cheek comment, guys. Those of you who were there know. I didn't either. If I want to say Pleasant Lake, my grandma says, you go to shul. Going to Great Shul, grandchildren, and the Pleasant Lake Shul was established. And when I read this in class on Thursday, I sang the song, which we will sing yet later. As the eldest of his immediate siblings, and along with his cousins, Gene became acquainted to most of us as Happy. And the comments that came out so far were, and nobody mentioned it, but he was happy. Although this was his nickname, we were all very happy during those first several years. Although we only spent summers together, that was enough for us to develop camaraderie over several years, which has lived on as we continue to consider ourselves extended family. Although most of our time between Labor Day and Independence Day each year was spent in our own lives, we still had and have fond memories of our fun summers at the lake, singing Jewish folk songs, swimming, hiking, boating, fishing, and playing. Although Gene's and my relationship was just these memories, we did chat, reminisce, and get acquainted each summer at the annual breakfast celebration for these past few decades. Gene was a colleague, friend, and extended family, and we spent much of our working life in aspects of the vehicle industry. I will miss him, fondly remember him as Happy.
So I want to comment about Mr. Buffalo over here. Not about you, but I had a hospital over this is
I didn't want that at all.